Oh, my friends, I have a juicy interview for you today. Today, I am talking about something that I feel like is a tricky subject for a lot of photographers, something that they tend to avoid like the plague or feel like they are just faking their way through, and that is networking. Now, before you roll your eyes or skip ahead in the queue, I want you to stay with me because when it is done well, networking isn't old school, right? It's not handing out business cards or pretending to be someone that you're not. It is about building real relationships that can move your business forward in ways that you might not expect. And my guest today gets that better than anyone. Angelica Pompy is the vibrant force behind Pompy Portraits in Jacksonville, Florida, where she specializes in celebrating the beauty and confidence of women through maternity and boudoir photography. But beyond her stunning images, she's also a powerhouse business coach and marketing strategist who helps creative entrepreneurs, particularly females, build businesses that actually pay the bills. So obviously, Angelica and I have a lot in common. We share many of our core values. So she is joining me here today to discuss 3 practical strategies for networking like a pro. Even if you're an introvert, even if you feel awkward in front of crowds, and even if your idea of a good time involves, 0 name tags, right? We are going to be talking about how to quickly and memorably connect with people. And she has a fun little tech hack for you. We're talking about the kinds of questions that you can ask when you're talking to a stranger that lead to real conversations instead of just surface level chatter. And then she's sharing her best tips for finding events that are actually worth your time. And she has an amazing story about how one event that she ended up at turned into close to 6 figures of income just from that one event. She also has a free workbook that she is sharing information for. It's in the show notes that is going to walk you through some of these steps to turn connections into real results. So grab your coffee, grab your notebook, or, tie up your walking shoes and let's dig into it. Welcome to This Can't Be That Hard. My name is Anami Tonkin and I help photographers run profitable, sustainable businesses that they love. Each week on the podcast, I cover simple, actionable strategies and systems that photographers at every level of experience can use to earn more money in a more sustainable way. Running a photography business doesn't have to be that hard. You can do it, and I can show you how. I am so excited to have you on the show, and selfishly, I'm just excited to get to chat with you again. We're chatting about networking, which seems like a really appropriate thing since I met you at a conference in a sort of networky kind of a way. But how are you doing today?
I'm good. Oh yeah, girl. Networking is my jam. And when I saw you, I was like, oh my God, I get to meet her in real life. I've been a
Oh,
huge fan of all the things that you've been doing in the community and the photography space. And I just want to say you're amazing. Just as you are online, you're the same person in person. So that's good.
same. I feel exactly the same. And I felt like we were meant to be together with our memorable hair meeting across the room. Well, before we dive into everything, for anybody who doesn't happen to know you or be familiar with you, why don't you give everybody sort of the broad brush of who you are, what you do, where you are, all those good things.
I love it. Yes. My name is Angelica Pompy. I am a boudoir photographer in Jacksonville, Florida. I am full service, provide hair, makeup, client closet, albums, and wall art. So, very full white glove service for our clients. I love it here. I've been doing this since 2017. Another hat that I wear is I'm a business coach and marketing strategist for female entrepreneurs, and I help women grow confidence to show the fuck up in their business with money making strategies.
Love it. I also love a good, well crafted, this is what my business does statement. More people need that. So,
Yes, practice
um,
that with my peeps. And I'm like, you gotta have that. A quick hitter, you know?
yeah, exactly. You do. All right. So let's just sort of get the elephant in the room, welcome him into the conversation, which
Mhm.
is that I think a lot of photographers and creatives in general, first of all, we have all become very locked up in our computers when it comes to how we think about marketing our business, how we think about showing up for our business. It feels easier, it feels like less of a lift, and I think combine that with the fact that a lot of artists tend to be more reserved. I think that there are probably a higher number of introverts than extroverts in our sphere. And while that's certainly not universal, I think there are a lot of people who get pretty up in their heads about the word networking. So I'd love to just kind of start by talking a little bit about why networking isn't just for, extroverts and corporate types, and how it can really be a business growth strategy for creatives.
Yes, I love this. I think ever since the pandemic, there were so many different like perspectives of networking and how we can do things innovatively online.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, that in-person interaction is what's going to take your business to new heights. People buy from people. And I think that's what we tend to forget is like behind every small business, there's a family, there's someone that's, running this, like this is their livelihood. And so getting in the room and people putting a face behind the name of the brand or the business is huge.
Yeah.
Online, you just blend in with everybody versus like, oh my God, Angelica, that Puerto Rican with the crazy hair, that's her. Yes, I loved her energy versus like, oh yeah, I met this photographer online. Here's her information. So it just
Right.
allows you to stand out and show up as your authentic self for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk a little bit about, so you said you started your business in 2017. Am I
Mm-hmm.
remembering that
Mm-hmm.
from 5 seconds ago? You have to question it sometimes. It's not always the way that my brain works. So you started before the pandemic, and
hmm
then the pandemic hit. What were you doing in the early days of your business when it came to marketing? And then, like, how did that shift when COVID happened and,
Yeah.
options were limited?
Oh, I love this question. I started my business solely from Instagram. The first 2 years, I built my entire business. I hit six figures by year two, and I was very intentional with Instagram. The algorithm was very different back in 2017,
Sure.
2018. It wasn't as overloaded with people, and it was really easy to find my target audience. I also think that has to do with my price point. My price point at that time was much lower, and I did everything. I didn't have a niche, so I was doing weddings, portraits, families, newborns. So marketing then was much easier, and having like our clients, share my work and do collaborative things with my clients. And now it is like there's so many people online, and the
Hmm.
algorithm is literally, I feel like, changing every day.
Yeah.
Like, update. I'm like, holy smokies. Okay, let's get with the nine. So now I'm literally prioritizing in person. I tell people, hey, let's stay connected. And I'm even pointing them to my email list. I'm like, follow me
Mm.
online, but then I send them a DM and say, hey, join my email list so you can stay truly in the know of what's happening, events I'm attending. Because at the end of the day, these platforms like Instagram, Facebook can die. And there's a lot of businesses that might die with it, which is really sad and scary.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and we all sort of saw the potential around that at the beginning of the year with TikTok. And it's like, yeah, so the business can close, or, the doors can close on that particular social media, but also you can get shut out. I mean, that's the other thing. I talk to so many people all the time who get kicked off of Instagram or locked out of their Meta account in general, things like that. And it's a nightmare when that is where the vast majority of your marketing work is done. So I am 100% on board with you when it comes to email list and list building. But I'm also a big believer in showing up in person. When it comes to people feeling like, I hate being in person. I don't know what to say and all that. And we'll get into that. But it's like, well, you're gonna go photograph a person. You're
hmm
going to have to interact with them at some point. So, you may make specific decisions about the kinds of networking or the kinds of spaces that you show up, but I do think that that in-person thing is, you're absolutely right. It helps you to stand out. It helps people when they're putting a face to a name, when they feel like they know you, they feel attached to you, and your price point becomes less important. All good reasons.
Yeah, I'm like, while networking is scary, it is probably the most powerful tool to have in your back pocket, especially as a new business owner. I tell people an invisible business doesn't get business. So, like, what are you doing to be visible? And you want to be your backyard superhero at the end of the day, so people know. They might forget the niche that you're in, but they'll remember, oh, Angelica, the photographer. And man, I still get to this day. I've been a niche in photography for boudoir specifically since 2021, and I
Hmm.
still get asked to do weddings. I'm like,
Sure.
y'all, when have you seen a wedding on my page or my website?
Right.
But they
But we
remember.
love you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know, right? And then sometimes, you can do those one-off things if you have capacity, but I was like, okay, well, I'll send them to my people, and me sending that referral to them has so much more weight versus them like Googling somebody. And I
definitely.
think that's what people forget too is like, when you're in front of someone's face, you're constantly reminded, oh, this is Angelica, the photographer. You don't even have to say anything. People recognize you, start to recognize you, your brand. And that's the beauty of networking and getting out there and people recognizing what you do.
Absolutely. Amazing. So, obviously, you have built this business and a whole brand really that's just like buzzing with connection. I feel like I started following you on Instagram years ago. I mean, definitely more than 3 years ago. I have sort of been aware of your business for a long time. So I feel like you do that well even online. But can you talk are there any stories that you can share, especially from the early days when you were first getting more into in-person networking? Can you think of an experience that really so directly impacted your growth that you were like, "Oh, this. I'm going to double down here."
Yeah, 100%. When I first started my business, I was like a little eager beaver. I was like, I need to be everywhere. I'm going to every networking event. At the time, I don't have any kids or anything. So I was like, I'm going to just get up and go grab lunch while I'm out and about.
Yeah.
I would do like 2, 3 events in one day, which is a lot for those that are introverts. But I was like, I need everybody to know who Pompey Portraits is. And at that time when we launched, we actually had a photo booth business as well. And I was like, okay, maybe I can have my photo booth popped up in one place and I can network while the event's going. I went to one event. I didn't look at the fine print. I show up to the event and it's like a crowd of older women. And I was
Oh,
like, okay, let me go back to this flyer. So I go in the corner, pull up the flyer, and in the fine print it says for women 40 and older that are established businesses, all these things. And I was just like, so I had a choice. Do I stay or
uh-huh.
do I go? And I was like, you know what? I'm already here. I'm gonna make the best of this. I was 26 at the time, so
They
I
were
could
like, "What
just
is your skin
pass.
regimen?"
Yeah, so I was like, you know what? And I made the best of that scenario. I walked away from that event with doing a grand opening of a dental office. And I did their photo booth and their photography. They opened up a second location like a year later, and they ended up coming back for me. And at that time, we had added videography. So now they literally turned into almost a six-figure client after all of their services. And I
Wow.
was like, holy smokies, like this is what happens when you show up. And I was just like, I had set an intention. I just want to meet people that need to know about Pompey Portraits, not necessarily looking for direct leads, but like I just
Yep.
want to meet people. And that happened to me at 26. And I was like, I will forever be networking. I was like shook. I sent my little follow-up email and she came back, was like, I would love to have you for our grand opening. I was like, me? No way. And
Incredible.
from there, I was like, yeah, I need to show up.
So good. Okay, well, that's a great conversation. Now everybody go. I feel like that is all the inspiration anybody should need, but let's kind of get into the nuts and bolts of how this all works. For somebody who hears the idea or hears the phrase like networking opportunity and just wants to, melt into the floorboards. Let's talk about the sort of like start at the beginning. What does one do when one walks into a room full of people to break the ice, insert yourself into a conversation that's already happening or walk up to somebody who's just standing there? Like, how do you do that and make it feel natural in a room full of strangers?
So I think the first step before even getting in the room is really setting the intention, knowing what you're walking into. Is the intention to meet someone that was like on the flyer, that's a speaker there? Is it to just bring brand visibility? Is it to get specific leads? Once you have that intention in mind, when you walk into the space, it becomes much easier on like how you're going to approach people. It's other if you're just going to go and you're like, I don't know why I'm here, you're going to carry that energy. I don't know why I'm here. And it's going to elude when you start opening your mouth and start talking about your business. It's going to be like, I'm just here, so I'm not fined. And you never want to show up in that caliber. And
Right.
so once you know your intention, okay, I'm going to try to just connect with people and talk about my business. I tell people this is my like the best hack. go, if you're like one of those people that you're like, I don't know, I want to melt into the floorboards. What do I do? What do I say? Go to the shyest person in the room. Go to the person that's in the corner on their phone and introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Angelica. Are you here for the event? Yes. How did you hear about the event? And I always love to lead conversation with open-ended questions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but it's awkward when you ask somebody a yes or no question. And they're like, yeah, okay, well, let's see. Next question.
Right, which is the danger of approaching the shyest person in the room is that you do get those one word answers and then you feel like, oh, nobody wants to talk to me, but it may just be that they're as locked up as, as you feel on the inside.
Yeah. And I think when you do that approach, that will be memorable to that person. That person's really going to remember you, literally,
Yeah.
probably forever. Be like, "Oh my gosh, that woman came up to me and she was so kind and we both like approached a big crowd together." And sometimes you need like a counterpart to do that, feel a little bit more comfortable.
Hmm.
And the more comfortable you get, you just start showing up by yourself. But go to the shyest person in the room. And then the other piece is ask open ended questions. I have a free resource for those that are listening. It's literally breaking down how to craft your brand message or your message for your business, what questions to ask, and how to set intentions. But one of the biggest things with open ended questions, my first go to is like, how did you hear about the event? Do you know the
Mm-hmm.
host? Was it online? And it really kind of gets the wheels turning. And then my another question that I'd love to ask is, how did you get into this industry? How did you get into business? I feel like as entrepreneurs, we don't share our story often. And
Hmm.
that's when people light up. They're like, I've done this, that, and the third. And then I always love to follow up with, tell me more,
Yeah.
explain further. Let them do a majority of the talking.
Well, and we all, of course, love talking about ourselves. And when you're in a business space like that, we love talking about what we do and the business that we run. And the other kind of nice counterpart or nice side benefit to that particular line of questioning is that unless you get interrupted or unless that person is a narcissist, they're probably going to then turn around and ask you the same question or a similar question, giving you the opportunity to kind of, oh, great. I came here to talk about my business, obviously, but instead of just walking up to somebody and saying, hi, I'm Angelica, I'm a boudoir photographer. It's all about me. You're leading with, asking them about them. So super smart. When we were talking about like what we were going to talk about today, that meta conversation, I know you had mentioned something about QR codes, and I was super curious to know more about how that works when it comes to like getting ready for showing up at an event.
Yes. So a lot of people I've seen have like the dot, which is great and
Mm-hmm.
effective, but I feel like more in a corporate space because it has your phone number, your email, like your
Mm-hmm.
website. When you're in like as a creative entrepreneur, or photographer specifically, all of us are pretty much on social media. So I tell people pick your platform of choice and have people connect with you. Pick the platform that you're going to show up the most so
Mm-hmm.
they can see like your everyday life, they can see what you have to offer. And so I created a QR code. You can either do this on Canva or
Mm-hmm.
you can do this directly in Instagram, but on your back of your phone, every time I go to a networking event, I make the back of my phone my QR code to my Instagram.
Ah, yeah, cool.
Connect.
And it's an easy, quick way to just pull it out and be like, here you go. So they're not having
Versus
to,
like shuffling how to spell your name. How do you do
sure.
this? It's very quick. And then the second part of that is if I connect with someone very well, I screenshot their profile and then I send them the follow up. And I think that's the key with networking. You can
Mm,
go and network with 50 people, but if you're not building the connections post that moment, it will be irrelevant. So really
yeah.
making sure you're intentional with building those connections. So if there's someone I'm like, oh my God, I love their vibe and their energy, I want to definitely connect with them. I just screenshot their profile. I'll go through my photos at the end of the night and I'll send them a DM later.
Smart. Yeah. And that feels more casual, more personal than sending like an email, which kind of feels awkward. And it ensures that that conversation can keep going whenever, they can always scroll
Hmm.
back through their DMs and find you. And awesome. Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we lead with an open-ended question, but then that part of the conversation ends and they haven't started the keynote speaker or whatever's happening at that networking event yet. How do you kind of continue the conversation? I mean, I understand that some people are just naturally better at this than others. And at the same time, when you're walking up to a stranger, they may be really chatty or they may not be. Obviously, if somebody is giving you the I don't want to talk signal, you can walk away. But if they're not, but they're not necessarily doing the heavy lifting with keeping the conversation going, what kinds of questions are you asking that, turn that small talk into more meaningful conversation?
Yes. I love to ask people, what do they love?
Mm,
Like, what do you love? And it could be in business, it can be in life, but like dig deeper. Because I think we talk about so much surface level things, especially at conferences. You're talking to like literally hundreds of people, it could be at a
right.
time. But it's like, what do you love? And that conversation is gonna stand out versus the one that asks you, what do you do and how long you've been in business? And
Sure.
you feel like a robot, asking those things. But what do you love? Like, I love that. Like, and try to see if there's a common denominator there, or maybe it's like the complete opposite. Like, I met somebody at the conference and they were like, I love the mountains and I love like winter. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm a Florida girly. I could never, I'm not well in the snow. Like, what is snow? And like, I remember vividly what that person looked like,
Hmm.
what they did, and like just from that conversation of going deeper.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to tell people talk about things that are more about you as a person outside of a business owner. We're other people. We're a wife, we're a daughter, we're a friend. Like talk about that root of who you are.
Hmm. Yeah, which definitely like increases that personal connection, which so often ends up leading to more business. I At the beginning of this conversation, you were talking about how showing up in person really lets people get to know you as a person. And it's hilarious to me how much in the marketing world we talk about, make sure you're showing yourself, like show your face on your Instagram feed, talk about the things that you like and the things that are important to you outside of photography or whatever it is that you're offering. And that just happens so much more instantly and organically and without having to do, get in front of the camera, all those kinds of things when you're just having a conversation with people. It's the same reason that I like having initial phone calls with inquiries, even though so much of my business is automated and, pre-written emails and all that sort of stuff. If I have that first conversation before somebody books me on the phone, where they can hear my voice and we can have a back and forth conversation as opposed to me just sort of like dumping information in their lap. I just feel like my booking rate goes way up because it's more personal.
Yeah, 100%. I'm on the same wavelength as you. I don't book anybody until I get them on the phone. And once I get them on the phone, they're hooked. They're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, Angelica, you're so fun. And I'm like, I'm smiling. They can feel my smile on the other
Yeah.
side. I'm like kikiing with them and like asking them the questions. And like by the time my clients walk through the door, they're like, I feel like we know each other for so long because they follow me
Yeah.
on social media. I'm showing up, like you're saying, behind the scenes of life. And so like we built a rapport like really just naturally how it just kind of unfolds for the client experience, and it makes the transaction easier for the client.
Yeah. And we know as photographers that it is way, and I'm sure boudoir is even like to the next level on this, but our work is easier when the person or the people that we're photographing are comfortable from the get-go. If they,
Hmm.
there's usually a little bit of a like ice breaking period. And as short as we can make that, the more time we have to make the good photos, because yeah, those first ones
Yeah.
are often kind of throwaways.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So then let's talk about where we are going for these in person events. And I'm sure that that has to do with the kinds of clients that you want and all that sort of stuff. But how did you approach that? Because in, depending on where you live and like the size of your location, and I feel like it can be challenging to find an event that you can just show up for and, start
Yeah.
introducing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to be a wedding photographer. I'll give some examples around that because I know a lot of listeners may be in that niche.
Hmm.
And so for the wedding world, really getting into the sphere of your spears, so like your peers. So like going to the venue grand openings, people recognizing like, oh, who are you? What do you do? Supporting your peers when they have open houses. Show
Hmm.
up and like show up and talk about like how beautiful the space is, or who supporting that person. I think we forget like our peer-to-peer interaction in
Hmm.
networking in the wedding world and how important that is because as we all know, a referral goes way longer than just like a random search.
Sure.
So like knowing who's in your peer in your industry, that's important. So for example, I'm going to a networking or a grand opening of a new venue. Even though I'm not in the wedding industry directly, I do bridal boudoir still.
Sure.
So for me, it's very important to still know who's the planners these days, who are the videographers, who are the caterers, latest and greatest. I mean, I got to stay with the times, and what better place to do that than going in person and seeing the face behind the business.
Right.
um, so yeah, that would be definitely one. Another one is understanding who your target audience is. So for example, for me, I serve a lot of moms that have either kids ages of like 3 to 10, and
Hmm.
these moms hang out in mom groups. So although I'm not a mom, I am part of 2 memberships locally, and that's for me to network and connect with these moms. And I've can count like on 2 hands how many people I've gotten from these groups. One of them is like newer, 2 years, and I've gotten at least 8 or 9 clients from them. So hanging out where your ideal customer is and
Hmm.
finding what's the common denominator. So the reason I join those groups is that they have like networking meetups. So
Hmm.
those are the only things that I go to. I don't go to the mommy and me's. Obviously, I don't have a little me yet. So, but I'll go to the networking groups, and it's been super fruitful. So, really understanding where your ideal client is hanging out and going into those same spaces.
Amazing. So, okay, here is a question that I am dying to know the answer to. Because you are such an outgoing, kind of bubbly personality, I can totally see you showing up at like a mother's networking event, not being a mother yourself. But for somebody out there listening, thinking, like, my target audience and I are not the same. And so,
Mhm.
how can I go to a networking event and make that work? How do you handle that when somebody's like, oh, how old are your kids?
Yeah, I'd be like, well, I have 2 fur babies. So I think the biggest thing is having an open mind and an open heart when you go into these
Hmm.
spaces. So, and sometimes the conversations can be awkward, but never fault yourself like, oh, I was a reason why that conversation went left. Just
Sure.
say like, oh, it's fine, and continue the conversation. I think the biggest thing when those scenarios of like someone asks you an awkward question like that is, be like, be honest. I don't have kids,
Yeah.
but I'm here to support the people that are running this organization. And then people are
Okay.
like,
I love
wow,
that. That's a great answer. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh, okay. Well, dang, she really came out of her like comfort zone to come to
Yeah.
this space to help with facilitating and supporting this group. And I think when I say that, people are like, wow, okay, she's really here for the people, not trying to sell me anything. And I think again, once they get to know my energy and see me, they're like, oh, I need to follow her on Instagram. And I
Yeah.
always tell people this, I'm extrovert, but those people that are introvert and quiet, that energy also attracts your dream client. Not
Hmm.
everybody wants an
Sure.
Angelica, and that's okay. So show up as you. Don't try to be someone else that you're not, because, like I just said, when I first met you, I was like, she's just like she is online. That doesn't happen a lot online these days. I'm like, you meet people in real life, you're like, is that the. Hold on, there's something
Yeah.
a little off there. So just making sure you're being true to you, not to just, fit in, if you will.
Yeah. And that is, it sounds hard, but I feel like, and you would think, and you're absolutely right, so many people show up differently than online than they do in person. You would think that that might be difficult because of how few people kind of nail it.
Hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, it's just so much easier to not be sort of putting on an act of any kind
Hmm.
in either space. I feel like it is exhausting to, try and be funny if you're not funny. And it definitely doesn't work if that's the specific one you're going for. But extroverted and introverted are another thing. It's not, there are so many people out there, no matter what we're talking about in terms of your personality and your values and all those kinds of things. Your people are out there, and those are the people that you're going to ultimately want to work with, because then the work is easier too. So
Yeah. I
it's
have
a
one more hack.
oh
So
yeah.
what I love to do is I'm a big fan of wearing your brand colors. So if you have an established brand, I always wear my brand colors. So right now I have black on, that's one of my colors, but
Hmm.
People remember that. Anytime they see like this mustard yellow, it's so crazy. Random people will be like, hey, look, I saw this shirt and remind me of your business. Or hey, there's this couch in your brand color. I'm like, thanks. So wear your brand
Amazing.
color and it brings brand awareness about your business.
What do you think my bright pink background is all about?
I know, right?
So good. All right. So the $1 million question here, and we've talked about this a little bit, but I just want to make sure that we hammer this home, is once you go to one of these events, you make these connections, it sounds like the work is not over. What should somebody be planning to do next, right? What are the tips that you have for staying top of mind without being pushy, like making sure that you kind of cement that relationship beyond just the day of whatever event?
Yes. So for us creatives, entrepreneurs as photographers, the DM, instead of sending a text DM, I would send a video message.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guarantee you're going to stand out and people are going to be like, oh my gosh, putting again the face to name of who they talk to
Hmm.
is super key. And in that video, I would just say, like, hey, Samantha, it was so nice to connect with you. I love learning about your dogs and like, the life that you love to live outside of being a photographer. But let's stay connected and invite them if you want to do like a deeper conversation, invite them to a connection call. And that's like virtual coffee chat. So that's what I love to do to extend that. Some people will take me up on it. Others are like, oh, yeah, I'll come around to it. And that's totally fine. But you at
Sure.
least extended the invitation. So definitely a video message will make you stand out from your peers. And doing that follow up, I think, is key. I usually do it within 24 hours.
Love. That's so good. And I feel like having this pretty systematic approach to these events can make them feel more doable, where you've got a little bit of homework beforehand, where you're finding out, who's hosting, is there a speaker? Is there, an agenda of any kind? Who's the target market? What are my goals, right? Setting your
Mhm.
intentions. And then you go and you have your conversations and you meet your people and you share your QR code and you screenshot people's profile. And then afterward, you have your follow up. That feels like to me, it feels like a much more doable checklist than just go network, dot, dot, dot.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
I love it. And my personal goal is to go to 2 events a month. So set a goal for yourself. If networking is like, scares the living daylight out of you, start with one event a month and
Yeah.
go to different communities, different groups, see what's your jam. There's some, networking groups that are larger than others. If you're
Hmm.
more like an intimate girly like me, I love to just talk with people individually, like 500 people plus, like that's super overwhelming for me. I
Same.
rather 100 or less, honestly, 50
Hmm.
or less is my
Hmm.
jam, but you won't know what feels good or aligned with you until you try it. So set a goal for yourself and it's for the better. I know it's like one more to do, but this to do can amplify your business, your voice, and what you bring to the table to your community.
Amazing. So good. I knew this conversation was going to be great. You absolutely delivered in every possible way. Angelica, tell everybody where they can find you and remind me again about this workbook that you have.
Yes. So I'm giving your listeners a workbook. It is a workbook from taking your conversations from low impact to high impact and leaving a memorable footprint. So how to craft your elevator speech, what questions to ask. It is a juicy workbook there. So I'll drop the link here in the show notes so you can share that. But you can find me on Instagram, Angelica Pompy, everywhere: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. My website is angelicapompy.com. And I would love to connect with you if you're listening to this. I would love to challenge you with sending me a video DM and tell me
Oh,
what you thought about today's episode.
amazing. Okay, you guys, you have your marching orders. Angelica, thank you so much. This was lovely as always.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
That's it for this week's episode of This Can't Be That Hard. I'll be back same time, same place next week. If you like the show, be sure to check out thiscan'tbethathard.com to explore all the resources we have for photographers. And of course, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a review of the show on iTunes or Spotify. As always, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic week.